What is going on, y'all? Welcome. My name is Ben Hall. Most of you guys know me from my other talk show, but now I'll be starting a basketball talk show with my guy Cameron. It's going to be both NBA and college basketball once a week, just like the football talk show. We'll be sitting around and just talking, giving our thoughts on both the NBA and college. So now I'll let him introduce himself, and talk a little bit about himself.
Yes, sir. I'm super excited to be part of the show. I'm Cameron Nia. I do interviews with athletes similar to Ben as well. I host my own podcast as well. I pretty much talk all the sports on my podcast, but I'm super excited to be doing just the NBA and college basketball on this show.
So for our first segment, we're going to be doing a NBA draft grade. The NBA draft was about 2 weeks ago, and really good draft. So our first team, we're going to go in alphabetical order. We're starting with the Atlanta Hawks. They took Onyeka Okongwu and Skylar Mays. I rated this a B. I thought Okongwu was a really good pick where they got him. He has a really good inside game, got a good mid-range shot. He's got a lot of touch, great versatility, and he's a good rim protector. And I also like the Skylar Mays pick. At LSU, he really showed he had a good basketball IQ. He's a great shooter, great ball handler, and really just overall did it well. So, I said B. I would say a B plus because I think they got two really good picks to add. And in free agency, they added a ton. So I think they're really going to be a good team this year.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I had this at a B plus as well. I really like the Okongwu pick a lot. You're taking the best player on the board really at this pick. Obviously, he's not the best fit. You already have Capella, you already have your other bigs, but you're definitely taking the best player on the board at this position in the draft. And then also with Skylar Mays, right now he's a two-way player. They signed him to that deal, but so he won't be in the NBA that much in his rookie year at least. But I think he has a lot of potential as well to contribute. And if he doesn't shape up, it's a later pick, so it doesn't really matter. I like where they took the best player on the board. Nothing too special, but they got the best player they can get. B plus.
For our next team, the Boston Celtics, I gave this a B plus as well. Aaron Nesmith, from a lot of people, was ranked as the best shooter in the draft. He's got a lot of length and strength. Hopefully, he can kind of expand more on his playmaking and get to the basket a little bit more. But that comes with a lot of players in the NBA, like Bradley Beal. A lot of guys have done it. Their next pick, they took Peyton Pritchard. He was probably arguably the best point guard last year in college basketball. He's a true point guard, playmaker, can really shoot the ball. The only thing he lacks a little athleticism, but we've seen a lot of guys. We've seen Luka Doncic, who really doesn't have too much athleticism, and he's played really well. So I don't think that's too much of a knock on him, and I like where they got him. And the last pick, Yam Radar, the Israeli point guard. I read up on him. I saw some highlights. He's a really good defender. He's got a lot of raw talent. He'll be in the G League probably for a year or two, maybe even three, just to kind of get older and play there and learn a little bit because he's very raw talent, as I said. But he also can improve on his shooting game, but really good defender, and I really like the Celtics pick.
Yeah, so I'm kind of mixed on all of their picks here. I really like the Neesmith pick. I'd grade that pick an A, but my total for the draft would be a B. With the Neesmith pick, I think with the Celtics, you're kind of in a win now mode, really. You already have your franchise guys, Jason Tatum, obviously Jaylen Brown. You have all of those guys set up, but when you add a guy like Aaron Neesmith, bringing him off the bench, he can be a player maybe like a Duncan Robinson, at least in his first year. He can shoot the ball really well. He can just contribute really well coming off the bench and bring some fire. He won't be asked to do too much, and he can continue to develop, which is why I like the Neesmith pick a lot. I didn't love the Pritchard pick. I think they could have maybe got him later in the draft. With other guys, like I like Tyrell Terry on the board at that time. I think it would have been a better pick to take him. So I didn't really like that pick a lot, but it's an okay pick. Obviously, Pritchard has a lot of potential. He was fantastic in college, so it's not awful. And then they got the Israeli player as well, like you mentioned. And with players overseas, you're really taking boom or bust picks, really. And I think you already got your two guys that you kind of already need. And then you're just kind of taking a bet on this guy. You're not really losing much here, so I'd just give that pick like a B. You're not really losing anything there, but you're taking a chance, and you could potentially get some really good talent. But I have a B for the Celtics draft.
For our next pick, the Brooklyn Nets, I gave them a C, C plus. They gave up their first round pick for Bruce Brown and Landry Shamet in a 3-team trade. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think they could have got some skill with the 19th pick, but they're adding some depth to their team with that trade, I guess. But for the pick, Reggie Perry in the second round, center from Mississippi State, I think if he would have went to a Duke or North Carolina or one of the top schools, I think we could be looking at him as a top first round pick. But playing in the SEC, I feel like he didn't get as much respect as he should have. He's a really, really good inside game. He could improve on shot blocking, which won't be hard as big as he is, and as he puts on some strength. He's a great rebounder and really does well inside, and maybe could try to expand his game a little bit more outside once he gets to the NBA. But he probably will start in the G League, bang around a little bit there because the Nets are pretty good. They got Jarrett Jack and everything. So I rated this a C plus just because I didn't like the trade, but we'll see how it goes.
So with the Brooklyn Nets, for me, they traded that 19th pick, like you said, for Landry Shamet, and I agree. If they were a different team, I would absolutely hate the trade because with the 19th pick, you can get a bunch of young guys. But I'm really a fan of Landry Shamet. He can play off the ball, catch and shoot, do a lot of things for this Brooklyn Nets team that really. They don't have a lot of guys that can really do. I think Landry Shamet can provide something like other players in the NBA with his 3-point shooting ability. And I think for a team in a win now mode, I think Shamit can contribute a lot. But yeah, I do agree that with the 19th pick, you could probably get a better player, but it's more of a risk. And I think with a win now mode team, I think Landry Shamit was the way to go. So I gave the draft a B, and then with Reggie Perry, obviously you're taking him later on, so he'll probably play in the G League, just like you said. They're a very deep team, so I give that pick a B as well, B plus maybe. You're not really sacrificing that much, and you're getting a guy that could potentially be really, really good. So I give their draft a B, but it has the upside, but it also has the downside as well, for sure.
For the next team, the Charlotte Hornets, I give them an A. They got LaMelo Ball, which I think is a great player. At least offensively, he's already played pro, went through all that. Really, he's always shown skill everywhere he's played. The main knock on him is defense, but in the NBA, we don't see as much defense as it is, and LaMelo Ball definitely has some upside on his defense. But obviously, he was a third overall pick. I think that was a great pick for them. I think he'll fit in there. The next pick, Vernon Carey from Duke. Very physical inside. He's got some soft touch, good pick and roll player, and a lot of athleticism. Coming to Duke, he's a 5-star, big time recruit, and I think he can fit in well in Charlotte as well. And then in the second round, they took Nick Richards and Grant Riller. Richards played at Kentucky, has played big boy basketball, got not as much hype just because he didn't average as many points and stuff, but I think he could bang around their G League for a little while and maybe get pulled up in a couple of years. And then Grant Riller, I actually really like this pick from College of Charleston. Really good point guard. He's got a high IQ for the game. And just like Richards, he'll probably be in the G League for a few years. And eventually he could get called up, kind of like their other point guard, Devontae Graham did.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% with that Riller pick. I think he's a guy that he'll probably be in the G League, like you said, for a few years. But I definitely see him having potential to come in a couple of years and be a solid contributor. Maybe not as a starter, but definitely off the bench. And for that late value, I really like that Riller pick. And then with the LaMelo Ball pick, I'm not so high on LaMelo Ball. I feel like he needs to be better on defense or just be more focused on defense. He seemed like he got lost a little bit on defense at times. And then with the Vernon Carey pick, I was fine with that pick. That's not a bad pick at all. As you said, he has very nice touch inside, so I think he's going to be a guy that could do really well for them. But going back to the LaMelo Ball pick, I think Ball is definitely the player with the most upside here, maybe at this pick. But I think Okongwu would have been a better fit, especially that you got Gordon Hayward. You already have Devontae Graham. You don't really need guards. It would be nice to get a nice big man with Okongwu with that a Bam Adebayo upside kind of. So I gave their draft a B plus because I think they could have taken the better player or better fit with a Kongwu over Ball, but I still think it was a super solid draft with a lot of upside for sure.
For the next team, the Chicago Bulls, I gave them a C minus. Now it's not. A lot of people have knocked the Patrick Williams pick. Only thing I'm saying is they could have traded back and got the same guy and probably got some more assets. He's a great defender. He needs to improve a little bit as a scorer. He came off the bench at Florida State, so he's still young. He's still learning. That'll definitely be good for him. But I guess that's what they thought. They thought they'd be getting a great defender, as I said. But like I said, you could have traded back and got him still probably 5 picks, 6 picks later, and got much more value. But the other pick, Marko Simonovic, the center from Serbia, he's got a really good jump shot with a lot of upside. He's a great shot blocker, and he definitely needs to improve on his inside game. Listed as a center, you're definitely going to have to improve your inside game coming to the NBA. But he's been compared to Nikola Jokic, and in the G League over the years, he definitely could improve it. And then, like we've said with other guys, get caught up over the next few years.
For sure, I agree with you 100% with that Patrick Williams pick. I'm not against Patrick Williams, but I feel like again they could probably take him even at like 10 or like 9, maybe traded back for sure. Um, Maybe they're super high on him, which is why they probably took him then. But I still think they could have traded back and been more safe and taken him way later in the draft. So I give their draft a C plus just because they could have taken him later. If they would have taken him later, I would have probably given him a B or B plus depending on where it was. And then with the international guy Simonovic or however you pronounce that, I think with the later picks, I really like the idea of taking the international players with a lot of upside because I think obviously you're spending a later pick in the draft on them, so you're not really giving up too much, or you're not really losing anything, and you get a guy who has Nikola Jokic upside. He may not ever be, and he probably won't be that, but if he has that potential to be there, you're not giving up much, and I really really like that pick. But I have to give him a C plus just because they reached very far on Patrick Williams.
For our next team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they have one pick, Isaac Okoro. I give this a B plus. I really like him. He plays very passionately. He's a great defender. Gets to the bucket, draws contact. He's got a great knowledge of the game. And coming into Auburn, I don't think anybody would have seen him going this high in a draft. But he blew up at Auburn. Really plays well. Can really do it all. He might need to work on his shot a little bit, but other than that, he's a really good player, and I really like this pick for them. So that's why I gave him a B plus.
Yeah, I am really high on Isaac Okoro. He was actually number one on my board, which is higher than most boards probably. He's a super athletic defender. He's a great finisher. He has tons of potential. As you said, he plays with a lot of passion, which is something I really like in a player, which you don't really see as much with Anthony Edwards, at least with his love of basketball. But I think Isaac Okoro, he plays with a lot of passion. Seems like he really enjoys the game, and he's very athletic, which is always great when you're in the NBA. So I really like that pick. He definitely needs to improve his shooting, but I think if he can improve his shooting, he has really superstar upside, which is not really there with as many players in this draft. I gave this pick an A plus because I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are desperately in need of defending, and that's exactly what they got here. This is the guy that I mocked for them to take, and I think this was the best player on the board at the time, and that's why I give it an A plus.
For our next team, the Dallas Mavericks, I gave them a B. I like Josh Green. There's definitely some things he can improve on, but he's very athletic, good defender, can finish above the rim, and he's played with good guys his whole career. So I think in Dallas he'll really fit in well there with Luka, and that could be very dangerous. And their other two picks, Tyrell Terry and Tyler Bay, both of these guys were very under the radar guys. I don't think they got as much respect as they deserved. They both played well in college, and they both deserve a little bit more respect. So I gave them a B. I gave the Mavericks a B in this draft. I just think they got a lot in this, and much more than people really think.
Yeah, I agree. I really like their draft as well. Obviously, Josh Green is a player that can come and contribute day one off the bench. I was super high on Tyrell Terry, and then obviously Bay. He's a good defender. The Mavericks had a very clear plan going to this draft. They wanted to go get players that can play good defense, and especially with Tyrell Terry and Bay, they got players that can really fit in their system at least, or fit around Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, because we know Luka Doncic isn't the best defender and you need complementary players around him. And then they also took a bet on an undrafted guy, Nate Hinden. I think he could be a guy that you can develop in the G League and bring around Luka Doncic. I think their strategy was really not really taking a superstar caliber player. Obviously, where they were, they didn't even have that potential, but there were some guys obviously on the board who are more boom or bust, but they took some more safer picks, guys who can probably contribute off the bench, be decent contributors, play around Luka Doncic. So I gave their draft an A. I think it just really makes sense, and I think they knocked this draft out of the park.
For our next team, the Denver Nuggets, I gave this draft an A. Zeke Najee, he's very athletic. He's got great motor. He's another guy who really plays passionate with passion. He can put on some muscle, which a lot of guys do when they get to the NBA, and that'll definitely help. And that'll definitely help him inside on offense. But like I said, he plays great defense. He really works, and I really like that pick. And then their next pick, RJ Hampton. This was the best pick for them to me. I think if he would have went to college, he would have been a top 3 pick. He's great on offense. Already played a year pro, got used to that, and yeah, he's a great shooter. He can really do it all. He might need to work a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, but like I said, he's already played a year pro, so he'll get used to that a little bit, taking the contact and getting to the free throw line. So I really like this draft for them, and like I said, I gave it an A.
So I'm completely opposite on you here. With RJ Hampton, I don't know if you've already could tell by the previous grades I've given. I really like defense with LaMelo Ball. I kind of knocked him for that a bit. And same thing with RJ Hampton. I think you're going to need a guy that can play good defense, especially with Jokic. He's not a horrible defender, but he's also not as athletic really, which is why I like the Zeke pick. I'm not really sure how you pronounce his last name, but I think he's a guy. He's a bit of an undersized big man, but he's really powerful. Like you said, he has some good strength, and I think he can continue to improve. But I didn't really love these picks that much, so I gave this draft an F. I didn't like this draft very much at all.
So that's our first A to F differential. But
Uh,
for the next team, the Detroit Pistons, I gave them an A. Killian Hayes, the point guard from France, I'm in between on him. I like him. I think he was the best player there for them. He's a true scorer. He can get to the bucket, gets a lot of steals, good passer, mid-range shot. He definitely needs to work on his right hand, though. He favors that left hand so much, and I think that could hurt him in the NBA because defenders will be all over that. But for the next pick, Isaiah Stewart, I'm a huge fan of his. Tough inside scorer, and he's a really, really good defender inside. He works hard for rebounds, and as he goes on in the NBA, he could definitely develop a better shot. But for the next pick, Sadiq Bey, he's a great big man, hard worker, plays good defense, played under a great coach in college at Villanova, and he's definitely used to all of this. And, he's great on both ends of the court. And like I said, he's a really hard worker. And for their last pick, Saban Lee, he's a great scorer. Like the other guys we said, he'll probably bang around in the G League for a little while. He's a very athletic and can get to the bucket, and you can never go wrong. He's good on defense, so he really can do it all. He's just not as valued as some other guys. So I don't think they went wrong with that pick. In some mock drafts, I actually saw him getting drafted way ahead than he actually did. But he'll probably be in the G League for a few years, and hopefully, he can evolve there and come up to the NBA soon. But I gave them an A.
Yeah, so I agree with this draft is C. I really love the Sadiq Bey pick. Obviously, he played at Villanova, so he gets great coaching, and he probably has a good IQ at least. He learned a lot probably from his time at Villanova under Jay Wright. So he obviously Wright's a very good coach, and he probably taught Bey a lot. But I'm not really a fan that much of the other picks, especially the Killian Hayes pick at number 7. I just don't see the value there. Obviously, he does have that upside being an international player, and he definitely has shown what he can be capable of, but I don't really think it's worth it at 7. Maybe you could have traded back, and if he wasn't there, he wasn't there. I just don't think he's worth it that high. Stewart's a solid player, and Saban Lee, like you said, he would probably bounce around in the G League. But I gave this draft a C. I don't understand why they took so many big men. You already have a lot of big men, and you went and got some big men in the offseason, so I don't really like their strategy there. Maybe if it was a different team, I maybe give it a B or B minus, but for the Pistons where they are, Killian Hayes could become that franchise point guard that you do need, but I feel at 7, it's just not worth it. So that's why I gave it a C.
So for our next team, Golden State, I gave them an A. James Wiseman, definitely can't go wrong. He was the best player on the board. You had to take him. I think he's going to fit in well there. He's versatile, can make plays, really could do it all. And if he would have played a full year at Memphis, I think he could have went number 1 overall. But for the other pick, Nico Mannion, that's a great pick in my opinion. He's tough. He'll be able to learn under Steph, which will be great for him. We saw a lot more out of him in high school than we did in college, even though he still played well in college. It's just in high school, he really took games over more, which is expect it when he's not playing against as good competition. But like I said, I gave them an A. I think the Wiseman pick's great there, and I think Mannion could really learn a lot under Steph there.
No, I agree 100%. I gave this draft an A as well. Wiseman was number 2 on my board. They got him at number 2. I think Wiseman provides so much versatility with his three-point shot, and he could be really, really deadly on a Golden State Warriors team. Space the floor with Curry. Obviously, Clay's injured, but you'll have him back next year probably. You can space the floor with all your players. Pretty much everyone on that team can shoot, at least in the starting lineup. I mean, Draymond, he can shoot as well, but he's not as consistent, but he can shoot the ball. And then I agree with the Mannion pick. I think Mannion will be able to spend some time under Steph Curry, really learn a lot. Obviously, Steve Kerr can help him a lot, teach him a lot, and I think he'll be a nice backup point guard.
So for the next team, the Houston Rockets, they didn't have a first round pick. They took Kenyon Martin. They didn't have a first round pick as a trade, but I didn't where they took him. I mean, it's a second round pick. Can't really go wrong in your second round picks. I just wasn't a fan of him. He's a really good rebounder and a really good defender, and he's also very quick. But I just don't know how good he'll be in the NBA. He definitely could prove me wrong. I'm just not a huge fan of that pick. But like I said, he's a good player, good rebounder and defender, but we'll see how he does in the NBA, or he'll probably start in the G League like other guys we've said. So I'm going to give that pick a C.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I wasn't that high with Kenyon Martin Jr. as well. And then they also dumped a few of their picks along with some of their high cost players away. And they didn't really get much in return just to save some money. So I gave their draft an F here. They saved some money, but really at what cost? Like, I don't like it at all.
For the next team, Indiana Pacers, I rated them a D. I'm not a fan of Cassius Stanley. He's very athletic. He's incredible at finishing above the rim. Pretty good rebounder, pretty good defender. But I just thought coming out of high school, I wasn't high on him. He's just a big dunker. That's really all I think he can do, except, he plays defense. But it's all in his athleticism. He's definitely going to have to develop a good jump shot in the NBA if he wants to play. He definitely could. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I just think he relies a little bit too much on his athleticism, and he won't be able to do that as much in the NBA. So I gave this pick a D.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% here with the Cassius Stanley pick. He gets a lot of hype. Obviously, he makes some crazy dunks, and in college, you can get out in transition, especially with a team like Duke. You can get out in transition, obviously make some dunks, but that's not really going to get you far in the NBA, and I didn't really like that pick at all. But they also traded their first round pick last year for Malcolm Brogdon, which was a trade that I was looking into, and I thought that was really good. I think the Malcolm Brogdon trade was really fantastic. But with the Stanley pick, I think he's going to probably turn into a guy like a Hamidou Diallo, who can't really shoot the ball or at least shoot it consistently, and just really relies on their athleticism. Hamidou Diallo, he always just goes to the hoop, probably throws something up, and most of the times can't really make a dunk, and then he'll make that highlight play, and people will be like, oh, I'm so high. I think he has so much potential. But these type of players, they rely on their athleticism too much. So I'm not high on the Stanley pick. I'm with you there. I'd probably give it a D in the second round. You're obviously not going to go really too far wrong with the pick, but I'd give that pick a D. But then with the Malcolm Brogdon trade, you give a first round for Brogdon. I would give that an A. So I graded their draft, if you consider that trade, at an A minus, just because your first round pick matters a lot more than the second pick. But if we're just looking at the Cassius Stanley pick, I would probably give their draft a C minus, D plus.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't agree anymore with that. But for our next team, the Clippers, I gave this an A. Daniel Turo to me is a beast inside. He plays defense, big time shot blocker, and can even stretch it outside a little bit on offense. So I really like that pick, and he was doing it in the Big Ten against a lot of competition. So I like that pick a lot. Jay Scrubb, he was a standout to me. I got to watch him at a Team USA event in 2 years ago, I think, in Colorado, and he stood out to me against a bunch of players. Jalen Green was there, and he was really playing well against all those type of guys. But, he's still a young player. Offense, he's a true threat, great shooter. And, a lot of people have been kind of questioning him for his maturity on the court. But, he played junior college, so he didn't really play against too much competition. But I definitely think he will mature while he's with the Clippers and the NBA team.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Oturu pick, I think he's a super solid player that could definitely help them off the bench, obviously, for his first few years, maybe spend some time as a two-way player. I'm not sure exactly what contract they signed him to, but probably off the bench. And then they obviously traded for Luke Kennard. I think Kennard is a super good player that can really help the Clippers this season, especially they lost a few guys. So I think Kennard's really a guy that maybe he could be a six man. He could fill that six-man role, maybe start. I think he's a guy that could really help. So considering all of that, I'd give their draft a B plus.
For our next team, the Memphis Grizzlies, I rated this a B. They took Desmond Bain late the first round. He's an exceptionally well shooter, one of the best shooters actually in the draft. He's got a lot of a high IQ. He proved he was a good basketball player while he was at TCU all 4 years, and I really liked that pick there. The second round they got Xavier Tillman, and as we said with the other guys, second round picks you really can't go wrong with. He played under Coach Izzo, which means he played with good coaching, and he really played well inside in the Big Ten. I like that pick. How long will he be up in the pros for? I don't know. Definitely starting the G League, and we'll see where he goes after that. But I like both picks, and I gave them a B overall.
Yeah, I'm with you there. They traded up for both of these players. I was super high on Bain, and I was fine with Tillman. I think he's a really solid player. I like both of the picks a lot. They obviously went and got an undrafted guy, Killian Till, I think is how you pronounce it. So I really like the two picks, but I didn't love that they really traded up for them. And then I'm a person who values coaching really a lot in college. I think a coach can teach you a lot in really high IQ players in general. I just like a lot. I don't love that they traded up for these players, but I do like the players that they took. So I gave them an A minus, just because they did trade up for these guys.
For the next team, the Milwaukee Bucks, they took Jordan Nwora, who I'm really, really high on. I really like him. He's a great shooter, a good rebounder, and a pretty good defender. They needed to put another shooter around Giannis, and besides Middleton, and I think the Nwora pick was a really good pick. I think he'll start the year up with the NBA team, but we'll see. The other pick was Sam Merrill, the shooting guard out of Utah State. You can't go wrong with this pick, as we said. This was a late second rounder. He's a great scorer, great 3-point shooter. And where they took him, I think that was a steal. What he does in the NBA or the G League, you don't know, but I think that was just a really good pick there. He's a great ball handler at Utah State. He handled the ball for them. And he's a shooting guard, but he handled the ball for them. He's not as athletic, but I like both picks. So I'll give him a B plus.
Yeah, I'm with you there with the Nwara pick, or however you pronounce his name. I think he's a super solid guy that can definitely contribute, come off the bench, get some points. He'll probably only average around 6 points, maybe 5 points in his rookie season. But he's definitely a guy, maybe like Neesmith, obviously not a high caliber, high potential player, but I think he can certainly contribute day one. And then with Merrill, I agree that I'm not really that high on him or low on him. They're both of their picks were just super solid. And then obviously they traded their first in the Holiday trade. So you obviously went and got a guy like Holiday. So I think their draft was super solid around, kind of like the Mavericks, really just getting players to help you in a more like a win now mode. So I give them a B, but nothing special, but just some nice picks.
The next pick, the Miami Heat. They only had a first round pick. They took Precious Achua. I like him. He's a good scorer, a good rim protector, but he definitely needs some work going to his left side. I gave it a B plus. I think him besides Bam Adebayo will be very good, and the Heat already got a really good team, and adding him I think only improves them. It's a first round pick. They got him late. I didn't think he would drop that low, but he did. So I give him a B plus.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I actually liked Achua a lot coming in the draft. Him and Okoro are very similar type players. Okoro is obviously much better, but Achua's at 20. I think he's a high energy player. He's also very good at defense, especially at the rim. This pick was probably my second favorite pick in the draft after the Okoro pick, so I gave it an A plus. I think Achua really fits well, and I think he can really contribute with the Heat and really elevate their team more than maybe some of their other guys can do.
So for the next team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, I give it an A. I know you probably won't because of how you said about Anthony Edwards earlier, but I agree with you. I don't know where his love for the game is at, but I just think he was the best player in the draft. He's got to turn it on a little bit. At Georgia, it was tough for him. He didn't have too much skill around him, but he made it happen early in the year and later towards the end of the year. We didn't see it as much, but as I said, I think he's the best player in the draft. I think he'll fit in well there. Like I said, I just think he needs to turn it on. But for the next two picks, Leandro Balmero, if that's how you pronounce it, from Argentina, he's a very unselfish player, good ball handler. He forces some plays too much, but he'll probably be in the G League, so we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But the other pick, Jaden McDaniels from Washington, he's a great versatile offensive player. Maybe in the G League he'll improve his defense a little bit, but I think that was a really good pick there, and we could see him in the NBA in the next few years. So I gave this pick an A.
Yeah, actually, with Edwards, you might be surprised. I would probably grade the Edwards pick by itself a B plus. I had him originally at number one until he made those comments about his love for basketball. I feel like coaching, really studying tape, can really help you and take you a far way. And if he's not really interested in doing that, then obviously I don't think he's going to turn out to be the best player. But he was number one. He fell to round 3 or 4, I believe, on my board going into draft night. But I still give that pick a B plus. And then with the Jaden McDaniels pick, I love Jaden McDaniels so much. I think he has a ton of potential. I think he can improve a lot with the Timberwolves, and I think if he can do so, he could be a really, really good contributor. And then with Bolmaro, or however you pronounce his name, with the overseas guy, he has a lot of potential. I wasn't really high on him coming into the draft, but obviously with the overseas players, they're really boom or bust players, so he could either be really good or really bad. But I do like your other two picks. I think both of them will spend some time in the NBA, especially Edwards will definitely, because he was the number one pick in the draft, and the McDaniels has his potential. I think with your first two picks, you're just taking two guys that can really contribute. Obviously, the Timberwolves did not succeed last year. They were like 14th, I think it was, in the West. So you really need guys to really elevate your team. You have D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns. So I think Edwards is definitely the best fit to go on your team. So I gave the draft an A minus, just because I have my concerns about Edwards and his love of the game. But if you didn't make those comments, I'd probably give the draft an A or an A plus.
For the next team, the New Orleans Pelicans, I gave them a B. Kyra Lewis is another guy I got to see at that Team USA U19 camp. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I've seen him go against a lot of good competition and, just play well. Alabama didn't have too much success, but their team wasn't as good. And I think he's a tough point guard, great scorer, and he's a great defender. I've watched my own eyes him defend great players at a very high level. So I really like this pick. I'm going to go with a B, just because this was the only pick that they drafted with. Like I said, I really like this pick. Actually, I'll move it up to a B plus. I think Kyra Lewis really has what it takes to fight for that starting point guard spot in the next few years. Definitely early on, I don't think he'll be the starting point guard, but over the next few years, we could see that. So I'll give this a B plus.
Yeah, I like this pick a lot too. I think Kira Lewis Jr., however you pronounce that. I think Kyra Lewis Jr., I think he really has a lot of potential. I don't think he'll be a day one contributor, but I think 2 or 3 years down the line, I think he has all of the tools to be able to succeed and really do well in the NBA. So I graded this pick an A. He's a bit of a boom bust, but I really think he's going to boom. I really think he has a ton of potential, which is why I gave it an A.
The next is the New York Knicks. I give them an A. Obi Toppin, I love that pick. A lot of people were some people were saying this pick might be a bust. The Knicks definitely needed a guard. I'm not sure why they didn't take a guard there, but Obi Toppin, you can't go wrong there. He's a great rebounder. He really can stretch the floor, plays great defense. The problem was, we got critique for his defense a little bit, but I think he's a good defender, and I think he will be in the NBA. He's very strong. He could get tossed a few things, but I like that pick. And then the next pick, Emmanuel Quickly. He's a great shooter. The night of this, I wasn't too high on Emmanuel Quickly, but going back, if you look on his improvements from his freshman to his sophomore year, it was just incredible. And I think that could be a big difference for me. Making those improvements just in college under Coach Calipari. I think the sky's the limit for him in the NBA under even more good coaching. So I like that. He's a great shooter, plays good defense. Needs to work on getting to the bucket a little bit more and his ball handling just because he didn't handle the ball as much there with Ashton Hagans. But I like that pick. And then, as we've kind of talked about a little bit with undrafted free agents, they signed Miles Powell. Still unsure how he didn't get drafted. One of the best offensive players in college basketball last year. He could shoot from anywhere. Really got an NBA 3-point shot, and you can't go wrong with signing an undrafted free agent. So I really like that. So overall, I gave them an A.
Yeah, I like their draft a lot as well. I think Obi Toppin's a guy that he'll be in the NBA for a while. He has a super high floor. I don't really think there's a way he can really be a bust. I think the only way he'll be a bust is if people hoped he could be a superstar type guy. And I don't think he will be a superstar, but I think he's definitely going to be a guy that's going to be around for a very long time. He'll continue to improve. He'll continue to get more knowledge. And I think he can be one of those guys, play maybe like 27, 28 minutes a night, just really contribute, help the Knicks out. I think the Knicks are definitely in need of a point guard for sure, and definitely they are in need for a superstar, and they don't get that with Obi Toppin, which is why I would probably grade that pick an A minus. But I think he's probably the best player on the board at the time. He just makes the most sense for the Knicks. And then with the Emmanuel Quickly pick, they traded the 27th and 38th pick for Quickly, which at 23, which I didn't really love that they traded, because I think maybe at 27 you probably could have got Quickly or another guy that could contribute as well. So I just don't love that they traded up for that pick, which is why I'd give their total draft a B. But I do like Quickly. I think he's a super good player. I think he has a lot of potential to improve in the NBA. And then, as we said, with the undrafted player Miles Powell, as you said, he was a great player in college, and I'm not really sure why he didn't get drafted either. So, and you can't really go wrong with the undrafted guys as well, like we've said all night. So I grade their draft a B. I think it has its upside, but there's just really no superstar talent in their draft, really. So that's why I have it at a B.
So for the next team, the OKC Thunder, I gave this a B just because I don't really know how to feel about it. As you said with the overseas players, it's boom or bust, and they took three. Pronouncing this guy's name is going to be kind of hard. Aleksej Pokazevsky, the Serbian center. He's another guy who's been compared to Jokic a little bit. He's really good on defense and inside. He's still very young, so he needs to add some strength. But I think it was a good pick. They maybe could have got a little bit more. That would be a guarantee. But he, like I said, he's a boom or bust. Then next they drafted Theo Maledon, the point guard from France. He's a great playmaker, really good defender. He's not too flashy. He doesn't have blocks or steals, but he plays really good, consistent defense. Then on offense side of the ball, he's got inconsistency shooting. He definitely can work on that, but he'll definitely be in the G League. I don't know how long, if he'll get called up, but I think he could be, like I said, a boom or bust. And then their last pick, Vit Krejci, he was drafted by the Wizards, and he ended up in the trade for Cassius Winston. Um, I didn't like this pick for the Wizards wise. For OKC, he tore his ACL, so he definitely won't be here this year. He's got great size for a guard. He's a good scorer, passionate defender. He definitely needs to add some strength. Coming into the NBA or even the G League, he's not strong enough yet, but he's still young. So overall, I graded this a B. Like I said, I don't know how to feel about this because it's a lot of boom or bust picks, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm a Thunder fan. On draft night, I'm like, what on earth is Sam Presti doing? What is he doing here? Why would you trade up and get Poku, who's a guy they probably could have got where they were sitting originally, but I feel like Sam Presti, his strategy here, he's like, this is a rebuild year for us. We don't really want to succeed this year. And I think with a guy like Poku, he has this entire year to improve. He can definitely, he 100% needs to add some strength. He said in the media week that he is working on improving his strength. So I think if he can do that, I think he could be a really, really good player. He's a 7 foot tall player. He can shoot the ball. So I think him, along with Mike Muscala and Al Horford, can provide a new layer to the Thunder offense that really hasn't been seen before. The Thunder really have never really been a good shooting team. Now you have three shooting big men. I think if Poku can add that weight, really just be stronger, I think he could be a super good pick. On draft night, I probably would have given that pick by itself a D. but now I'd probably lean towards a BB plus because I think he has a lot of potential here. With Theo Maldion, I was super high on him. I am 18th on my board. They got him at 33. I like him a lot. I think, again, another international player. So obviously he has a lot of potential, but he could also bust. But I think spending the 33rd pick on him is not a bad idea, and I think he's a super solid player. And then with the Vit Krejci pick, I'm not sure how to pronounce that either. They obviously traded for him. I don't really love this trade at all. He said he is injured right now, and he won't even have time to develop because he's injured right now. And with these overseas guys, you really want to focus on developing him. So I'd give that pick probably an F, but obviously you're not wasting too much at least on him since you got him later in the second round. But I'm not too high on that pick. But with the first two picks, I really like the picks a lot. And in looking at Presti's strategy, go get overseas guys that can develop, can become super good players or super bad players. And they'll be really good, really ready for this upcoming draft with a ton of superstars, potential players, Kate Cunningham, Brandon Boston, just a ton of players in this upcoming draft that they can get. And then if you get a guy like Kate Cunningham, you already have SGA, Dort, Baisley, and then you get Poku. If he manages to turn into a superstar, those are 5 players right there that are all fantastic, and they could be in the championship caliber, a championship discussion in 2 or 3 years. So I like Presti's strategy a lot in this draft, but it is a lot of boom or bust, so I give it a B plus.
So for our next team, the Orlando Magic, I gave them a B plus. Cole Anthony, I really liked him before college. Then he got hurt, so it was hard to tell. And I think the main reason I kept it away from an A was just because he needs to stay healthy. But if he stays healthy, I think this is an amazing pick. He's a great shooter, great playmaker. He could improve his shot selection. He took a lot of dumb shots when he was healthy, but that'll come with the NBA. A lot of guys in college aren't as mature on the court as they should be. He can play defense, and he's proven that in high school and in college. And I really like this pick, so I gave it a B plus. And the only thing keeping it away from an A was if he can stay healthy or not.
So I'm not too worried about Cole Anthony's shot selection. As you said, in the NBA, there's a lot of good coaches. Even the worst coaches in the NBA are better than a lot of the college coaches. But I think with Cole Anthony, I think he's a super high upside pick, and he definitely has a lot of potential. He's a high hype player. A lot of people enjoy watching Cole Anthony. The only thing that really brings this pick down, I have it at a C plus. I think is that shot selection. I'm not too worried about it, but I do like players showing IQ. As you can tell, I like defense and IQ a ton. So I think it would be better if he could show some IQ, but I think he's a super high upside pick. If I'm the Magic here, I'm probably taking Tyrese Maxey. I had him a lot higher than I had Cole Anthony on my board. I had Cole Anthony around the 30s, which is lower than probably every single mock or draft board had him. But I think he does have the upside, but I did give it a C plus because I was not that high on Cole Anthony.
So for our next team, the Philadelphia 76ers, I gave this pick an A. As you just stated with Tyrese Maxey, I really like this pick. He's a great scorer and a great shooter. And a lot of people were knocking his three-point shot because he only shot 29% from three-point range in college. But I don't think that shows the shooter he is. He made some big shots at Kentucky. And in high school, he proved he could shoot from NBA range. So I'm not worried at all about that three-point shot. And he plays with a lot of heart. He's got a high basketball IQ, and he also plays a lot of good defense. So I really like that pick. The next pick, Isaiah Joe from Arkansas. He was one of the top scorers in the SEC last year. He was a really good shooter. Like I said, he's one of the best shooters in college basketball as a whole last year. He could work on some strength and defense and a little bit more passing the ball. But like I said, I like this pick just because he's a good scorer and shooter, and he'll need to learn some defense. But the last pick, Paul Reed from DePaul, great defender. He can score pretty well. He needs to add some strength, which he will with NBA lifting. But I like all 3 of these picks, and that's why I gave it an A. And I really think they could help in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm with you with Maxi. I think Maxi is one of those guys. He was probably one of the steals of the draft. I think him and Achua were 2 really good picks back to back, 20 and 2020, or 20 and 21. I think Maxi, as you said, is a super high IQ player. He can really kind of do everything at the guard position, and he can really improve at all of those things. He can do everything pretty good, but I think, as you said, with his shooting, 29% shooter, if he can bring that mark up to 36, 37, then I think you can start talking to him like he could become like with the same potential as a player like SGA. Obviously, not the same skill set, but I think you can put them in the same discussion if you can really improve those things. And then in his first year, Maxi will not really have to do too much, similar to kind of SGA with the Clippers. He didn't really have to do much in his first year, but we saw in his second, third year, or second year for SGA, he really improved and he showed the talent that he has. I think Maxi's a guy that he won't really have to do much in his rookie year. I think he'll probably average 8, 9, 10 points per game, but he was probably one of the steals of the draft for me. And I think in his second or third year, Maxi could be a super good player. With their other picks, Isaiah Joe and Paul Reed, I wasn't too high on either of these players. Um, so I'd grade both of these picks a B. But generally for the draft, they did previously trade 2 picks for Horford, which I didn't really like. So I gave their draft a B plus. But the Maxi pick I loved, A plus on that pick.
For the next team, the Phoenix Suns, I gave this a B plus. They definitely probably could have traded back for Jalen Smith. A lot of people everywhere graded this a C or below, which it's kind of baffles me. He's a great shooter, great shot blocker. He can make plays with the ball. He plays defense, shows a lot of heart, and it's actually kind of cool. I played against him in high school, so it might be a little bit of biasness, and I'm also a Maryland fan. But I think Jalen Smith is really, really a good player. And once he adds some strength, I think everybody's going to be wrong about where they're grading him. So I graded this a B plus just because I think they maybe could have traded back a few picks and got a little bit more and then drafted him.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I did grade it a C minus though, but I think Jalen Smith, he's not a terrible pick for me. He was 19th on my board. So obviously at 10, I feel like that is a bit of a reach. I think they could have traded back to maybe 15, 16, and they still could have found him on the board. And I think that's really why I have it as C minus. They also got the undrafted free agent, Sean Alexander. Obviously, with your undrafted guys, you can't really go wrong. So that's super solid. So I give their draft a C minus. I do like Smith. I think he does have a lot of potential. The Suns did show us last year, I believe it was with Cameron Johnson. They kind of reached for him, but he obviously turned out to be well. They packaged him, traded him, and got Chris Paul. Obviously, they traded a lot more, but they did package him for a trade for Chris Paul. So I think the Suns, they definitely know what they're doing here with the Jalen Smith pick. I think this is a pick like Patrick Williams, though. You definitely could have traded back. Now that I think about it, probably a C, C plus. I'd give their draft, but I originally had it a C minus, but I'll probably give it around a C plus actually.
So for the next team, the Portland Trailblazers, they, they I gave it a B. CJ Ellaby, Portland is very good at drafting guys who are under the radar. They've done it a lot, and this is why I gave it a B. I trust what they do. They didn't have a high pick, or first round pick, so you can't go wrong with second round pick. The shooting guard from Washington State, he's a really good shooter, can handle the ball. He could improve on getting to the paint and finishing. But like I said, I trust them. I've always trusted what they've done with the draft, so I gave this a B.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I gave their draft a B plus because if you look at the trade, the reason that they didn't have a first round pick is they packaged it with Ariza and they sent it to get Covington, and I love that trade. I'd probably give that trade an A minus. And then with CJ Ellaby, I think he has a lot of potential. You can't really go wrong with your later picks. So I'd give him a B plus on the draft. I really like the trade they made, and then obviously Ellaby, he could turn out to be a good player as well.
So for our next team, the Sacramento Kings, I gave this an A plus. Tyrese Halliburton, I think, was one of the steals of the draft where they got him. And I also really liked Jamias Ramsey. Where they got him. Jamias Ramsey coming out of high school is one of the top prospects, and he really plays a lot of defense and can score the ball. So I really like that pick. And as I said, I really like the Halliburton pick. I think he was a steal of the draft. As big as he is playing guard, I think he's great. And then there's also a lot of upside for Robert Woodward where they got him. So overall, I gave this an A plus. I really liked all the guys they took, and I think they could be good in the next few years.
Yeah, I really love this draft as well. All 3 of these players were in the top 30 of my board. Obviously, Halliburton, probably one of the top 5 steals of the draft. And then I really like Jamias Ramsey. I was really hoping the Thunder could have got him at 33, I believe. I was like, come on, let's get Ramsey here. He's a super versatile player, and I really liked Ramsey a lot. And then Woodward's a guy I had him 29th on my board. So at the back 30, but you obviously got him later on as well. You can't really go wrong with any three of these picks. And I think if you add all these players to your team, they can all definitely be day one contributors. Halliburton will probably be a day one contributor. The other two may spend some time as two-way players, but we'll see what happens with them. I gave an A, so I love this draft a lot. Really good job by the Sacramento Kings.
For our next team, the San Antonio Spurs, I gave this a B plus. I really like Devin Vassell. He's a great defender. They may have reached a small bit, but he's very athletic, can really do it all. I also like Trey Jones a lot. He showed a lot at Duke. It's his second year at Duke. Even as a freshman with that talented team, he really showed a lot. So I like this pick a lot. Both guys they got, I think, could have an impact on that team. So I gave it a B plus. I really liked what they did, and both guys really have a lot of upside.
Yeah, I like their draft as well. I love the Vassell pick. I think he has a lot of potential. I agree they could maybe have reached. I had him 12 on my board. They got him at 11, so kind of similar there. The Spurs always know what they're doing. They always know what they really need, which is why I think Vassell has a lot of upside. Trey Jones, I'm not a fan of. I had him really low on my board, but there is definitely upside there. Like you said, he did contribute to a really stacked Duke team, so I'm not a fan of him, but I see he could probably contribute coming off the bench. He knows how not to be like a number one guy that maybe some other players just don't really know how to do. I like the Vassell pick. I'd probably grade that pick an A or an A minus, but I'm not a fan of the Jones pick, C or C plus. So I give their draft in general a B.
For the next pick, for the next team, the Toronto Raptors, I gave this a B. I like Malachi Flynn. I think he's a good point guard. He shoots the ball well. I don't know how it fits in there, with Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet. I'm not. He'll come off the bench, and I think he can learn a lot under the two of those guys. He's kind of similar to Fred VanVleet coming out of college. Not a lot of people, he actually had more hype than VanVleet did, but I don't think he got as much hype because he went to a San Diego State, but he was one of the main reasons for all their success they had. So I really like him. And then their other pick, Jalen Harris, the shooting guard from Nevada. He was a great scorer, great shooter. He really likes the ball in his own hands. He's a shooting guard. So I think while he's in the G League, he'll develop, and I think we could see him up in the NBA in the next few years. But I really like both picks, so I gave this. When I rated this, I gave it a B, but I'll move it up to a B plus now, looking back at it.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I think Malachi Flynn, he's a player. He really did really well on that San Diego State team. He really took them from an unranked team to they really succeeded last year. I love his toughness. I think he can learn a lot from, especially from Kyle Lowry, and then obviously some from Van Fleet. I like that pick. I think he can learn kind of like with Stephen Curry. They got themselves a backup guard as well who can learn under Curry. So I think Malachi Flynn can be that type of guy. He'll probably be a backup for his first couple of years, but I like the upside. I love his toughness. I think he can be a super great player. I wasn't super high on him, but I like the fit with the Raptors, and I really think what he can do with the Raptors could be really good. And then Jalen Harris, he's a solid pick. There's upside with every draft pick, so I gave their draft a B. I love the Malachi Flynn pick a lot, so B.
For our next team, second to last team, the Utah Jazz, I gave this a C plus. The reason I gave it a C plus was because their second pick, Elijah Hughes. He's a great 3-point shooter. He's good on defense. He needs to work on turning the ball over a little bit less. He had a few too many turnovers, but I think there's a lot of upside with him. I think he'll be in the G League for a little while, but I think when he comes up, he'll be ready to go. But with their first pick, Udoka Azubuike, the center from Kansas, he's got a strong inside game. He's overpowerful, but he's still very raw talent. He doesn't have a left hand. He relies on his strength too much. And in the NBA, he won't be able to get away with that like he did in college. So I didn't like that pick very much, but I really like the Elijah Hughes pick. So that's why I gave it a C plus.
Okay, so I'm kind of the opposite with you here. I was super high out of with Udoka Azubuike. Obviously, he is super raw, right? but he won't really be asked to do much in his first couple of years. He'll be learning under Rudy Gobert, but I don't really love that they traded up for him. I don't think he would have been even taken to like pick like 40, 50, maybe if the Jazz didn't take him. I'm not really sure how the NBA interest looked on him, but obviously there's a lot of critique. Will he fit the modern NBA or not? And I think he will. I think he'll be able to learn under Rudy Gobert a lot. He's obviously a raw talent, but if you look at his college tape, he makes a lot of plays, kind of looking like a Shaquille O'Neal. Obviously, probably will not be Shaquille O'Neal, of course, but I really like his dominant inside game, and I think if he can really develop that, continue to improve his defense, I think he could really, really be a fantastic player. And I think he's one of those guys that's a boomer bust. Like many other players in this draft, some people give this pick an F, some people give this pick an A. I probably give this pick an A minus just because they traded up for him. And then Elijah Hughes, he's a super solid player. I'm not as high as you were on him, but I think he's still a super, super solid player with a lot of potential. So I like both of their picks. I gave it a B plus just because they traded up for Azubuike, which they probably could have got him where they were perfectly fine, which is why I have it at a B plus.
So the last team, the Washington Wizards, you might be able to tell us a little bit of biasness. I'm a Wizards fan. I gave this an A. Denny Avdija, I'm very high on him. Coming into the draft, even I was very high on him. And as you said, the overseas players are either a boom or bust. I'm really hoping he can be a boom. He's a great playmaker at 6'9", can handle the ball, finish at the rim, pretty good jump shot that he could still improve on. But time in the NBA will show that. He's passionate on defense, but could still improve there as well. But like I said, he's young. He's got a love for the game, and he's been playing pro since he was 16. And I think he could be the next Israeli star. So I really like that pick. And then the Cassius Winston pick. I was so happy with this. Like we said before, they traded this with OKC for Vit Krejci, and when they drafted him, my draft grade probably would have been a B minus just because I didn't really like him. But when I found out it was a trade for Winston, I was very happy. I love everything about him. He's a great point guard, high IQ, great shooter, can really pass the ball. And when I first made the rankings, I thought he would be behind John Wall, and Wall was set to sit out back-to-back nights. So I thought he would be able to even maybe be a starting point guard some games. But now with Russ coming over to the Wizards, I don't think Winston will start at all this year. He's a two-way player. They signed him to a two-way contract, so he'll be bouncing around from the G League to the NBA. And I think eventually he could have a really good mark on this team. He was coached by Tom Izzo. And like I said, like we both said, we really like good coaching. And I think like I said, I just love everything about the pick. And I'm high on him. And I'm also high on Avdija, so I gave this pick an A.
So both of these players were guys that I was not high on, but I think they got super good value for the picks. And obviously, I'm not going to downgrade them for how good I thought the pick was. I definitely agree with you with Cassius Winston. I think good coaching goes a far way in the NBA. I don't love that he's playing behind Westbrook, but I do like the Westbrook trade with Avia because obviously, if you put Danny Avia in a try to be a superstar type role in his first year, I don't know if he's going to succeed at that. I wasn't high on either of these players, but I think the value that the Wizards got, especially trading back for Cassius Winston. If I was a Wizards fan, I'm a Thunder fan, I would be pissed about the Krejci pick. So they obviously got great value trading back there. So both of the players I was not high on, but I think they're both guys that they got good value for. So I originally graded it a B, but I'd probably bump it up to a B plus. Now that I think about it, I'd give it a B plus.
But that is it for this episode. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. This is going to start being every week. We're going to be doing it every week. We're going to be doing a little bit of college basketball, a little bit of NBA, and we're definitely going to start bringing some guests on. I've been reaching out to a lot of guys, so we'll be bringing some guests on, and it should be a really interesting talk show.